Hello, friends. This is the Family Digest Show, and I'm Daryl Mobley. Today we welcome two guests who are experts on the subject of the secrets to great marriages and relationships. Dr. Joyce Morley Ball holds Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degrees and a doctorate degree in counseling, family, and work life. Dr. Joyce is also relationship editor for Family Digest magazine. Dr. Joyce contributed to the Making Marriage Work 12 CD series. Her latest book, Seeds for the Harvest of a Lifetime, Increasing Self-Awareness, Self-Esteem, and Improving Relationships, was recently published. Cheryl Curlin is an award-winning writer and a contributing expert for Family Digest magazine. Cheryl was also a contributor on the Making Marriage Work 12 CD series. Cheryl's first book, just published, is Everlasting Matrimony, Pearls of Wisdom from Couples Married 50 Years or More. That's a long time. Cheryl, Dr. Joyce, welcome to Family Digest Show.
Thank you, Daryl.
There you go. The secrets to great marriages and relationships. Okay, let's get started. First question to Cheryl. You have studied long-lasting marriages and relationships. I'm just curious, what made you decide to go after that? Why that subject?
The seed idea was sparked about 4 years ago. There was a trio of celebrity divorces. It was Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid, Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger, and Demi Moore and Bruce Willis. And their divorces were just splashed all over the headlines like it was a big party and a big festivity. And then a little time went by, and I noticed that the headlines continued. It was like a parade of headlines of divorces. Okay. And if they weren't divorcing, then they were changing partners. So I got to thinking, there's some kind of imbalance here. These people that are getting it wrong are getting all the attention, and then the people who got it right, there's just silence. Okay. So that set me on course for the idea for a book.
Fabulous book, too. We'll talk more about that later. Dr. Joyce, in your book, Seeds for the Harvest of a Lifetime, you hammer in the theme of you must love yourself to be loved by others. Tell me why self-love is so important.
Daryl, the reality is that everything starts with self, everything ends with self. If one doesn't love him or herself, cannot love anybody else. So if we're talking about healthy relationships, you have to love yourself first and know how to be able to do that. Now,
I got to ask you a question. I like numbers. Is there a percentage of people you think in relation who don't really love themselves? I mean, in your experience, your practice, do most of the people love themselves, or is that the root of everything?
I think that there are a large number of people that do not love themselves because we are not given permission to love ourselves most often. Too often people are just told that they're to love everybody else, and especially as far as women are concerned. Love everybody else and put yourself second. Okay. Women are taught to be selfless, and men are taught to be selfish. Okay. And so we have to begin to help them to learn to understand and begin to want to be with themselves first so that they can begin to move forward and begin to be with someone else.
So by the end of this show, then, I will be less selfish and more selfless.
That's right.
Correct? Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a man on this show. Okay.
Okay.
Cheryl, what about you? You talk about the secrets. Well, you show in your book, you go through the secrets to the marriage. You talk to these people. These are experts. I mean, if you've been doing anything 50 years, you're good at it.
No doubt.
Okay. So what secrets, that's what I call them, have you learned from these experts?
Depending on what couple you talk to, they're going to tell you different secrets. Okay. However, there's one secret that all of the couples shared, and I call it the WAM theory, W-A-M. Okay. And you know, Chef Emerald has his BAM.
BAM, that's right.
I have the WAM, and it's W-A-M, the will, the attitude, and the motivation to make the marriage work. And the will is that in your heart of hearts, no matter what, the relationship is the priority. And the attitude, well, your attitude is self-motivating. If you're going to think positive, you're going to get positive results. If you think negative, you get negative results. So that's the attitude. And the motivation is, do you have the energy that it takes to dedicate to a real, honest, solid relationship? Yes, that's the motivation.
So the relationship takes
energy.
Okay.
And you will find in a relationship that you have energy that you didn't even know you had at times. Okay. So it's the will, the attitude, and the motivation.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. Shared goals. Do shared goals play a role in that will or the attitude or the motivation?
Most definitely, a couple needs shared goals. And you think of things like family, religion, money, careers, and those are all important goals. But the most important goal to couples married 50 years or longer is, this is my life partner, and I'm going to keep this person as my life partner. Okay. That is the ultimate goal.
Ultimate goal. Okay, now I'm going to jump to the bad side a second. Not you, but the question, Dr. Joyce. what are the biggest mistakes couples make? Now, you see a lot of people coming before you. You see it all. What are the major mistakes couples make that help break the relationship apart?
Well, I think one of the greatest mistakes that couples make, Daryl, is the fact that they don't take time to get to know each other after they've taken time. If they don't know themselves, they don't take time to get to know each other.
Okay.
The other thing is that we have expectations that might not be realistic. Okay. And we're looking for things that might not actually be there.
Okay.
And so we have expectations of each other, and we haven't taken time to get to know each other to see whether those things actually fit or not. We don't know whether we really know someone or not, and we get with them, and we're looking for it to go in a direction, but we haven't talked about it. And the other thing is that there is not a relationship agenda. There has to be an agenda. And that agenda means that both have to be on the same page.
Okay.
If they're not in the same page, at least be in the same chapter of the same book.
Okay.
Too often they come together, they're not even in the same book.
Not in the same book.
Right.
Okay. So give me an example of two different agendas.
Okay. A person who comes into a marriage and they're about spending a lot of money.
Okay.
They just want to throw away a lot of money, and there's that person who's a conservator who wants to hold on to money. They want to manage money. They're all about trying to get that house, get those children. They're trying to go in a direction that they can have something they can save, and the other person is out just frivolously doing whatever he or she pleases. And so they don't have that same agenda. The person who's in it just for the sake of being married, it's a business to them, and it's not a marriage, it's not an institution, a relationship, and a commitment. So if you have that person is just in there for a business, they're in there to get whatever they can out of it. The person who's in there as an institution of marriage and a commitment is to say we're in it for the long haul.
Okay. Now, given all of that, are there specific things you can point to that allow marriages or relationships to succeed?
Oh, yes. When you look at marriages succeeding, again, they're having that agenda. We've talked about it. We first have become friends. We get to know each other. I know myself, I get to know you, I get to find out everything I can. And I've said to couples, one of the things you have to do first is to make sure that you look at the green card, the blue card, the red card, any color card there is, to make sure that you have all the information you need. Know family history, background. There's communication, effective communication.
Let me ask you, I interrupt you. Why is it important to know about the background? I mean, the family history, rather. How does that play into it?
Family history is very important because you're looking at the foundation. The foundation is what determines how the house will be erected. Just the life foundation is just like a house's foundation, and it would determine how everything will be erected. So if there's a history of drug, alcohol abuse, if there's a history of violence, if there's a history of lack of commitment, a lot of divorces in the family where relationships just don't last. Patterns, there are patterns that are interwoven in family history. Communication patterns, how people deal with issues, whether people stay in marriages, whether they don't, whether their parents were divorced early.
You're saying now that people tend to repeat what they saw. They're modeling, even if they don't think they are, they're modeling what they experienced growing up. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Please continue.
It's a cycle.
Okay.
And so someone has to break that cycle. But a lot of times people cannot break a cycle that they don't know even exists. And so subconsciously, as you said, they're actually repeating cycles that they don't know anything about. So often what I would help people to do is to do a genogram, to understand communication patterns, to understand behavioral patterns, to understand relationship patterns. There are relationship patterns within the backgrounds of families when people come together.
My good friend Les Brown says that you can't see the picture if you're in the frame.
That's right.
And so if people are in this is what they know, they've modeled this, if they're unable to look at themselves and take a look at that picture, then they can't really succeed at changing.
That's correct. And so often what I'll say to people is sometimes we participate in life too much. Take time and step out and observe it. Get to observe yourself and get to understand. Watch it play. And it will unfold in front of you.
Now, we talked about why to succeed. Are there particular, again, I like to call them secrets, secrets you've uncovered for why relationships tend to last and people go stronger together?
People go stronger together because they're committed to being stronger together. They're in it for the long haul. They want to be there, and they have the motivation to be there. When they actually took the vow, and what we have to recognize is that everybody who comes together, God didn't put them together. Sometimes we put ourselves together. So we have to look at what's the reason we came together in the first place. So there's a commitment, they're willing to compromise, there's effective communication, and there's trust, and there's love that's immeasurable. And it's not the material things that bring them together.
Commitment, communication, compromise, love. Okay. Let me get that down. That's what I do in my relationship. Now, Cheryl, how did... Again, I wish I could just have a room full of these people who've been married 50 years or more, because I would just imagine there would be this feeling, there's like a different vibe going on when they're all together in a room. But when you spoke to these people, how did they define happy marriage? What was happy marriage for these folks?
Well, when you say happy, you think of every day as peaches and cream,
Right.
and there's no problems and nothing hard to deal with, and just life is merry every day. And in fact, these couples would define happy as being a solid, strong marriage.
Okay.
And what was very, very common is when you ask...
Wait, so you're saying, let me make sure, I apologize for interrupting you, that happiness for them was a solid marriage, that the origin of happiness was the marriage, not happiness in and of itself. It wasn't happy, was not something you brought in, but it was what you were.
Correct.
Would be, okay, I apologize.
Correct. And also, happy was not saying, am I happy in this marriage?
Okay.
To them, it was, is my spouse happy?
Okay.
Am I gratifying this person?
Okay.
Am I helping them where they need help? Am I supporting them with whatever
Okay.
they need? Do I do favors for them? Do I say, how often do I say, do I love you, or sneak in a hug?
Okay.
So do I make this person happy? And you know, when somebody treats you nice, you're going to do the same back to them.
Back to them.
So I call it being selfless instead of selfish.
So we're back to that selfish, selfless thing again. Now, you have a saying that you picked up from these folks that marriage is a 75-25. I'll stop. You go and take it from there.
Marriage is 75-25, and both sides give 75%.
Both sides give 75%. And so the whole focus in a relationship then is, with both sides doing it, is toward the other person.
Correct.
It's what they need, what they're about, how we sustain them. And if both sides are doing it, then you're going to be happy.
Right. When you come together with those two modes of function, you've got a strong, solid marriage.
Okay. All right. Then now, Dr. Joyce, you and I love this topic, have discussed the notion of whether people are in a relationship or a situation. Right. And we know being in a situation ain't good, but tell me how a person would know if they're in a situation.
If a person is in a situation, Daryl, there is no commitment. There's lack of love, there's lack of respect, there's lack of trust, and they're in it for the short haul, and that's what a situation is.
Okay.
It doesn't last forever and a day. A
Okay.
relationship is for the long haul.
Okay.
There is trust, there is commitment, there is communication, effective communication. Okay. People are coming together and they're committed to doing whatever it takes in order to make it work.
Okay, now let me just make sure. So we're back to, again, the commitment. We talk about selfish, selfless, that sort of thing. So in a situation, now I've known people who I would look at them and say, they've been in a situation together for 15 years. So it has nothing to do with the length of time, or does it? I mean, if people are together and the relationship is, as I always say, jacked up, they're in a situation, how does that work? I mean, how do you, they may think they're in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Because they've been together so long and they're unwilling to break the. How does that?
Well, as the situation continues,
Okay.
eventually it becomes a condition.
A condition, okay.
Okay, and you need treatment.
That's what you
Anytime you have a condition, you have to have treatment for that
Okay,
condition.
okay.
Okay, so you go from a situation, and as it gets worse, it becomes a condition.
Okay.
And unless there's some intervention, some treatment, it's not going to get any better. So people stay in conditions forever and a day thinking that it's a relationship,
Right.
but that relationship is not effective. They're not actually building blocks. They're not going anywhere. They're not
Okay.
creating anything that's
Okay.
long lasting.
Now, let's focus on that relationship side of the coin for a second. When you're looking, if people walk into your practice, say a couple together, can you look at their body language and tell whether they're in a relationship or not?
Surely.
What do you see when people walk in and you know this is a relationship and it's a good one? What do you see?
Surely. I see attitudes. Usually the women have their arms folded, and when they sit on the couch, they're at opposite ends of the couch.
Okay.
Rarely do they sit close together. Their eyes are sort of rolling.
Okay.
They're looking at each other sort of vicariously, thinking, who's going to say what, and who's going to be right here.
Okay.
And they're looking to me often to take sides, and I always say to them, I don't take sides. I'm very impartial when I'm working with them.
Okay.
But there's something about their body languages that says that, I'm pissed about it. I don't feel that everything is going well here.
Okay.
They don't get close together, and they're not looking at each other in the eye. If they look at each other in the eye, they're looking at each other with angst, anger, and they're just really, really mad about whatever's going on, and they're not willing to actually listen to each other. Everybody wants to have his or her way.
Is there a way? That's good. Sometimes I go out to a restaurant and I see couples come in, and let's say we come in roughly the same time. I'll see couples come in, sit down to eat, and not speak to each other the entire meal. The entire meal. And they don't even look at each other. It's like they're two people who are strangers. Would that be a situation?
Oh, that's the situation. And it probably has become a condition because they've become so accustomed to it.
It's part of life.
It's a part of life. You know, they get up every morning, they don't speak. They go to bed, they don't speak. They never touch each other. They never actually give each other compliments. They're accustomed to the negative things going on. Negativity is a norm, and positivity is an exception. And so they get so caught into this humdrum, and they believe they have to stay together because that's the way it is. People expect that.
Okay. All right. Now, Cheryl, there are people, let's deal with this. We're going to flow through that negative notion that Dr. Joyce and I just covered and talk about happy marriages. There are people who do not believe it is possible to have a happy marriage, okay? Is it really possible? I mean, when you look under the covers of these relationships you saw, is it really possible?
I would say yes, it's very possible. But again, it's your definition of happy. And something I learned from talking with these couples is if there were ever people that were doomed to failure, it was these couples.
Oh, really?
Most definitely, because if you look at their lifetime, they've lived through 2 wars, a World War, the Korean War, economic depression and poverty. They didn't have the medical technology we have today. They didn't have the modern conveniences we have today, and they didn't have marriage counseling, or if they did, it was taboo. So if you put all these together, lump them together, these couples were doomed to failure. And then post that against today's standards, we really have no excuses. So most definitely it is. It's how you put things into perspective as to what's going to happen between you two.
So the situation of your life is not necessarily a predictor of whether you stay together a long time. Wars, health, sickness, family situations, and a whole host of other things, those things don't have a determining effect on whether we stay together for 50 years or not.
They have a determining effect in how you react to those, what your responses are going to be, what you do, and not just what you do together is really the key.
Okay, all right. Now, let's say that I'm an individual, I'm out there in life, and I'm looking for this person that I can be married to for a long, long time. I'm looking for the one that lasts, okay? And let's assume, and I know the good doctor here would say, make sure that I know myself, and I got myself together, and I'm prepared for this good life. What should I be looking for in that person who can spend a lifetime with me?
Okay, I have to ditto Dr. Joyce. I don't think you can say it too much. You have to look in the mirror and look at your reflection. Do I like who I am? Do I know who I am? Am I proud to be who I am? Do I like the way I look? If you can't be affirmative with those, you're going to head down the wrong road to failure. That's the first thing. Another thing is this person my best friend? Because anyone in a strong, solid, long relationship will say, I married my best friend. And then third is look at marriage as a lifelong process. It's not about today, it's not about a week from now. It's long term. There's going to be periods that are wonderful and periods that are not. Do you have that motivation and determination to stick it out? Do you want it to work for lifelong?
Okay. Now, Dr. Joyce, I want to follow up with the same question, but it's a different direction. I see people get into relationships and there's no real plan to it. I mean, it happened and there they are. 1 year later, 6 months later, 10 years later, whatever the case may be. Let's wipe the slate clean. What would a person look for in that relationship? Maybe they haven't fully formed themselves yet, but they're saying, okay, I want to start finding this right person. Maybe I have to sift through some of these grapes before I figure out which one is right. What should they do while in the sifting process? What are they looking for during the sifting process?
See, Daryl, one of the things we have to understand is that people take on people based on where they are at a particular time in life. And that person might fit at that particular time, but they might not fit later. So once a person begins to grow, and that's what we do, we don't change, we grow. And we begin to take on different nuances, we begin to take on different things, different ideals. We have to begin to look at where we are at that particular time. And we have to begin to say, even though I got into it at that time, he fit because I was in a desperate need at that time. She fit because I was in a desperate need at that time. Let's look at it now and be man or woman enough to say, you know what, it all doesn't come together. Am I going to hold it together just because I took it on then? Or am I man or woman enough to be able to say, you know what, this really doesn't fit. Let me be willing to stand up and say to this person, I don't think that this is a good fit or a perfect fit for either of us. I'm willing to step outside of this. But too often what we do, we stay in it and we're going to make it work when it doesn't work. You can't take a round peg and put it in a square hole. And so often we try to do that and it doesn't fit. So if it didn't fit then, it probably doesn't fit now, but we thought it did because it met a need at that particular time that won't be met later.
What do you say to these folks? And I see a lot of people who are they're not married yet, they're in relationships with someone, and they're fighting and arguing during the relationship stage. And they stay with trying to make that work. which, by the way, I don't understand trying to make that work at that stage. But what do you say to those people? What is it? What's going on that people would stay in a relationship? It ain't good now.
Right.
Why on earth are you staying in it when you have no connections?
Right. Well, see, that's the situation. It's not even a relationship.
Okay.
And often when I see couples and they're ready to divorce and they're going through, they're having friction, they're having difficulty, it didn't start in that marriage. It started prior to the marriage.
Okay.
Whatever took place before the marriage started is 9 times out of 10 going to take place once it gets going. So if you haven't fixed it before then, it's not going to be fixable then, because after a while you get complacent. You know, once we have papers on each other.
Right, papers.
Okay. We think
the papers.
right, we got the papers. We think that it's going to make it work. We think that as time goes by, people are going to change.
Right.
Well, people don't change. People have to grow. And if they don't know how or what is going on, they can't change their behaviors, change their attitudes, change their minds about things. They're going to continue the same behaviors they've had all along.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Now, you and I spoke before. You said about people being woman enough or man enough to stand up and say, hey, listen, it ain't working. It's not going to work. It never has worked. Let's do what we got to do and do this, okay? That's unfortunate, but let's do it.
Right.
Let's say that person has done that, and now they're out, time has cleared things, and they're looking forward to that second relationship, and they're kind of moving down that relationship road. Are there particular things a person should be looking for outside of themselves or inside of themselves to create in the second relationship, the marriage, what didn't occur in the first one?
The first order is looking at oneself. Let me look at me. Let me take time with me first. I think some of us, especially women, are so desperate to be with someone else that we don't take the time to begin to look at ourselves. And sometimes men get into it because it's a convenience. I need to have somebody to wash, do all the other things that I might not want to do for myself. But I think if we would just take time after a situation or a true relationship has ended, because some relationships do end also, take time out to go inside me, to be with me, to learn how to love me, to learn how to be with me. Then it gives me an opportunity to respect myself, love myself, accept myself, and be myself. Then it gives me more of an opportunity when I meet that person. And I say to people, get a list. What are the characteristics that you would like to have in someone else? As you start dating, go into the men's room or the ladies' room and look at that list and begin to do a process of elimination. Does it fit? Is this the one that I want to be with? Does he or she fit all the characteristics that I have here? And then begin to look at the fact that you can better accept that person, respect that person. You can better be with that person if you allow him or her to be themselves. And you're not trying to change them. What we too often want to do, Daryl, is we want to change people to have them to fit our mold. I don't want anybody who looks like Dr. Joyce.
Okay.
Or thinks like me.
Okay.
I think that diversity is very important. I think too often what we try to do is to have people to be just like us, to think like us. Diversity does help the relationship be more of a challenge and more exciting.
More exciting. Okay. All right then. Now, Cheryl, so I've got myself together, looked inside, I'm putting it all together. Any specific advice you would give me or anyone to, okay, Daryl, now you're in this second marriage, you want one that lasts forever, okay? What advice would you give me?
I would tell you to trust your gut. Gut feelings go a long way. You can probably talk to 99.9% of couples who've been divorced, and they will tell you that there were red flags when they were dating, and the day they walked down the aisle, the thought thumping in their mind was, I shouldn't be doing this, there's something wrong about it.
Walking down the aisle.
So I say trust your gut feeling.
Okay.
Listen to it. Another thing I would say is talk to role models. Find couples who you would like to emulate. They will be more than happy to sit down and talk with you. Because the only people that we ever hear about is the skinny on, who's getting a divorce and what happened or what are the headlines today. Nobody talks to the people who know the real McCoy. So talk to role models. And then finally, I would say, do you believe this is going to be a lifelong journey? It's not, we'll see in a year or two if it works out, I'll stick around or I won't. But truly, this is an adventure you're going to take together. There's going to be hills and valleys and peaks and mountains and good times and bad times. And are you willing to make this a lifelong duration?
Okay, all right then. Dr. Joyce, Cheryl, thank you for joining me. In just a moment, I'll share how you can use what we've covered in today's show. Now, here's what's in it for you. Listen, love yourself first. Then you can attract the love you deserve. And it's true. As Cheryl said, marriage is a 75%, 25% arrangement, and both sides must give 75%. Relationships can be tough. None of us are born already knowing how to make relationships and marriages work. But as we discussed today, there are some keys, some secrets that can allow you to create the relationships you dream of. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give away 10 books that have those secrets. 5 of Cheryl Curlin's books, Everlasting Matrimony, and 5 of Dr. Joyce's Seeds for the Harvest of a Lifetime, to the first 10 folks to go online to FamilyDigestShow.com and click on the Relationships button there and follow the directions. To buy your own copies, go to www.drjoyce.com and www.everlastingmatrimony.com. And don't give up. Until we meet again on the next show, believe, think, act, win. Enjoy life. Go to FamilyDigestShow.com for information on how you can subscribe to Family Digest magazine. You can also go to FamilyDigestShow.com to get more information on the Family Digest TV show, the viewer's guide and show transcripts, our show guests, and their books, movies, and other activities.